Unveiling by Linda Pastan. In the cemetery a mile away from where we used to live, my aunts and mother, my father and uncles lie in two long rows, almost the way they used to sit around the long plank table at family dinners. And walking beside the graves today, down one straight path and up the next, I don't feel sad, exactly, just left out a bit, as if they kept from me the kind of grown-up secret they used to share back then, something I'm not quite ready yet to learn.
Linda Pastan was born on May 27, 1932, in New York City to a Jewish family. In many of her poems, she addresses darker themes like depression, loss, mortality, grief, and, as expressed in this poem, death in relation to daily and family life. These themes likely stem from her isolated childhood, since her parents were very busy and she didn't have many friends.
Her father was also very controlling. Pastan says if she wasn't a girl or didn't faint at the sight of blood, she would definitely have been forced to be a doctor like her father. After graduating from Radcliffe College, she stopped writing poetry to raise a family of her own for 10 years, until her husband encouraged her to pick it up once again. She was Poet Laureate of Maryland from 1991 to 1995, and of her many awards and honors, they include a Pushcart Award, the Dylan Thomas Award, and the Bess Hoken Prize.
In this digital essay, we will attempt to analyze this poem in order to explore the true meaning of the interpretations of the narrator, who is a child, about death.
Unveiling. Right off the bat, Pastan hits us with an extremely mysterious and vague title. What we can infer from it is that something will be revealed in the poem, like a meaningful lesson or something personal to the narrator.
From a first read, this poem seems to be talking about a child, most likely the narrator, who is thinking about a cemetery that is not too far from her home. This cemetery, however, is where many of her relatives have been laid to rest. While she walks through the cemetery along the rows of graves, she surprisingly does not feel sad. Instead, she feels curious and left out of a mysterious secret, a feeling that is not unknown to her.
In general, there is a rather sad or negative mood. The main setting of the poem is in a cemetery, which represents death and sadness. This contrasts greatly with the symbols of innocence and purity that are expressed through the narrator. She does not seem to understand the complexity of death, and as a result, is not affected by the darkness around her.
She also reveals that she feels left out, as if all her dead family members are sharing a grown-up secret and not telling her. This secret could be referring to the afterlife, or what comes after death. The narrator does not understand this because she is still alive and may not yet have the mental capacity to comprehend the possibility of what comes after death, which emphasizes her youth. In order to deal with this confusion, she compares this to something she is able to understand and has experienced, which is proven by the use of her words "used to share" when referring to secrets shared by the adults at family gatherings. The narrator has a reflective mood towards the topic. She thinks about death quite deeply, but not in the right way. Although she is surrounded by death, she does not feel any grief for her loved ones. Rather, she feels left out. Her point of view on death amplifies the innocence of children. The tone of the poem is contemplative while the mood is somber. However, the narrator seems to be unaware of the sadness in her life.
The poem has an ambiguous setting at the beginning. She is thinking about the cemetery, but it is not revealed to the reader where she physically is. This changes at line 11 when she reveals she is walking through the cemetery. This shows a shift from her thoughts to the present. Another key turning point in the poem is at line 15. I don't feel sad, exactly. This may be considered a shift because it may come as a surprise to the reader that the narrator would feel no sorrow for the dead family members around her. The author also uses rather short and blunt lines. Line 3 is the only line that is longer than 5 words. This contrasts with the meaningful and profound topics of death and losing loved ones that are addressed in the poem. The child's thoughts are simple, and she underplays, or perhaps does not realize, the significance of death. This further emphasizes a child's ability or predisposition to simplify certain concepts that may be too complex for them to understand, largely due to their innocence and the little life experience they have.
There are also quite a few interpretations that can be made from the reader's point of view. The narrator walking up and down the rows in the cemetery could possibly be a symbol for what people want in life. We live in a world filled with hardships, and it seems like many people's dreams, or at least part of their aspirations, is to live a happy and innocent life, without worry or sadness. After reading the poem, there may also be different interpretations of the title.
Rather than unveiling a secret, the narrator reveals the dark truth about her life. She has lost many family members, yet does not feel the effect of her loss. She exposes how she feels about the matter of death. From the ending of the poem, the reader can also realize that, although young, the narrator shows a certain level of maturity by acknowledging that she's still innocent and has a lot to learn. Essentially, the title refers to the unveiling of her innocence and the narrator's own realization that she still has yet to understand many aspects of real life.
The main theme addressed in this poem is death and mortality. It uses a perspective that may not be considered very often, a child's point of view. Death is not a very widely understood topic, even among adults. Seeing it from a child's perspective helps readers consider the different possible interpretations of death. This may also reveal Pastan's views on death as it relates to her religious upbringing. Born in a Jewish family, Pastan may have been influenced by certain concepts about death related to Judaism. A prevalent concept in Jewish faith is the world to come, which refers to what comes after death. However, it is quite an ambiguous topic, as nothing is really revealed about when it will come or what exactly it is. The different interpretations of death emphasized by the narrator may be related to how vague the interpretation of death was for Pastan when she was growing up.
By employing all these literary techniques, Pastan successfully displays the topic of death from a child's point of view. Although unexpected, the child's feelings about the passing of her family members shows that there are many interpretations of mortality and what happens after the ending of a life.